Welcome back to the Live Free and Diet Hard podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Coates. Join me along with industry leaders and friends on a quest to get more people through the gym door and eating and living healthier. Join me where evidence meets empathy while rejecting fitness industry fads and extremism. Let's begin.
Rachel Henley, online coach, saucy fitness content creator based out of the UK. Big smiles. Welcome to the show. It's great to have you back. And you're one of a handful of coaches who I feel like you guys have cracked the code with video-based media. And I see exploding following, over 700,000 Instagram followers, which is cool. Great reach, great impact. I love seeing this kind of success, especially how long we've known each other. It's good to have you back.
Yeah, it's good to be back, and it's good that the podcast is back. I think everyone's missed it, not just me.
I needed to give it a little bit of a break and hiatus. I had some other stuff to deal with, but there's some thought to this. Is like for 7 years I've had conversations with people I respect, friends, peers, people I look up to, mentors, and I wanted to pass those lessons on to the other coaches listening. But quite frankly, it was very selfish for me to learn from, and I think a lot of my career evolution has been influenced by the podcast conversations. But the reality is we need more good information for a much broader audience. My goal is to reach the end user, and I really believe the coach who's always enjoyed it is going to get a ton out of it anyway, because I like listening to podcasts that speak well to, the everyday person that we're all trying to help. So, and you're great at it. So I'll start here. This one's fun. Quote, basically, you told a follower's mom to, quote, fuck off because mom hated her calves because they are so big. What was that all about?
I can't believe that's the first one that you dug up. But yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Yeah, so that was a question on my, so I always throw like a question box up to chat with people that follow me. And one of the questions that just came up was, my mum always criticized my calves. How do I make my calf skinny was the actual question. It's like, I want to make my calf skinny. And I did it as a story of just like, oh, should I answer this seriously? I was like, no, that's just fucking outrageous. Like, why is your mum giving you shit about your calf? She probably genetically got them from her mum and anyway. And I was like, why are you being so mean to your daughter? And so I put it up as a story and I had loads of replies to it. And I was like, you know what? I think enough people probably got enough body trauma from their parents that this could be a quite good one that people might just resonate with. And yeah, I did throw that one up there and it did spark quite an interesting conversation. But I think it's a fair enough boundary to lay when someone, this is your calves. Like what I would give to have strong calves is a lot. So yeah.
There's a lot here. I actually want to leave with it because I think it could go into a bunch of interesting things. And I like thinking of the concept of artifacts of someone else's belief system that and I think men can be vulnerable to this. I think women a little bit more on average sometimes have this stuff. And I know from clients that I've dealt with, and I don't blame the moms, and I'll explain that, but the moms or other figures in their families can say things that will, they have belief systems. They have, we'll call it archaic belief systems that a woman's value is in her leanness, her attractiveness, her appeal to a potential partner, that sort of stuff. And I've literally heard this stuff. And I think that's probably handed down a few generations and it gets perpetuated. Now, that's also an artifact that mom got from somewhere. And I think, so I'll pass it back to you. How does the person, because not just women, but how does a person set a boundary and take those belief systems they were raised with and indoctrinated with and discard them and be able to say, wait a minute, that's not mine. And that's the reason why I use the word artifact. That's not mine. That's someone else's belief. I'm holding on to it. It's no longer serving me. How do I move away from that belief?
I think a really powerful tool in this is empathy, which is kind of similar to what you're mentioning there of like before, because I think personally I'm someone that fears conflict like nobody else's, which is why my content is mainly saucy little tips rather than going after and calling people out and those sorts of things. Because it's a big energy drain for me. And it'll take a big step for me to say, yo, actually, you're out of line saying that. I can kind of do it now and then on the face of social media, but in my real personal life, if I actually had to tell my own mum to fuck off, yeah, I'd probably be quite upset. But it's one I think like in those times in my own life experience and also just working with people that have had to draw those boundaries with, whether that is sometimes it's a partner, sometimes it's a mum, sometimes it's a grandmum or an aunt at a wedding or something, when it's a comment on weight or comment on eating behaviors, if you're doing something, whether that is eating and saying, should you be eating that? Or you're not eating, no, should be eating, or wherever those kind of, I guess I say those beliefs from other people then projected on someone else. As I think a really cool disarming tool for yourself or like your own brain is that empathy of like, why might they be saying that? Where are those beliefs potentially coming from? I say it could be belief systems, as you've mentioned, from generation to generation. But also, I know my mum woke up, but she was brought up in the era, the golden era of really toxic like messages through media, through like I remember reading her Reader's Digest on like whenever you're on the toilets before you could scroll on your phone, you'd actually have to read a book, and it was always like the magazines, but it was always like oh, get beach body ready. I know there's still that kind of stuff out there now, but it's like that was on like on so much like a higher level at that time. And it's like when you're getting if you are raised through a life where that is the norm from your mum, that's the norm. It's like of course your projection of what is normal is going to have carried that forwards. And I think sometimes there's having that empathy going towards it of thinking, okay, they're not attacking me, it's the projection of themselves or maybe their own narratives that are coming from it. I think from your own place of self-peace and protecting your self-peace is like thinking, okay, if I'm going to draw the boundary or not, I can at least protect myself with that of like, okay, that's them talking to themselves almost, and I'm just the person on the other side of that. I think that can really help put yourself in that place of when you're talking about it, not being an attack on an attack, instead of it being maybe like I say, it was tongue in cheek my post of like, I hate your calves, fuck off. That probably isn't going to get necessary to a solution, but like those things of like maybe asking your mom, like, oh, why did you feel the need to do that? And get them to repeat what they've just said sometimes can make them go, oh, yeah, actually, that was a bit weird. Not always. Sometimes people just go, yeah, but your calves are really fat. What are you doing? But like sometimes I think when you get someone to like repeat those messages and say it out loud again, they can sometimes have that self-revelation of like, oh, actually, was that okay that I said that? I don't know. But yeah, I think that sometimes is something that we go through with our clients in that in that conversation is, as I say, is starting from that empathy before you then go and draw that boundary that is obviously for you to draw.
I like recognizing shame triggers here. And this is something I just completely took from Brene Brown's writing, which I love. And if you can recognize what are the environments that you're going into and the people in your life, and mom may be very safe and trusting, if you get your heart broken, but eating behavior might be a shame trigger because mom might be prone to saying, or grandma might be prone to saying certain things. So I like in my personal life, I know that I have some friends who you can talk about certain topics with. Great. All right. I've got friends who literally will, metaphorically speaking, hide a body for you, right? But you don't bring up relationship shit with them because, they will say or do things that elicit shame, right? So you kind of have to know. And it's probably easier with friends than with family. Going home to family dinners, and if a shame trigger is how you're eating or your body weight, then that's hard to navigate. Any more thoughts on navigating shame triggers?
Yeah. I think beyond obviously just like I said, that general empathy of where that shame trigger might be coming from. I think like, yeah, approaching those conversations, I just think they are just generally very difficult. I think maybe that's coming from my own like projection of that, of like the thought of it is actually making me sweat in places. I'm just like I'm just trying to place myself in that situation, and it is uncomfortable. But I think sometimes and this is I think happens in quite a lot of fitness journeys, like sometimes embracing discomfort for future comfort is something that is a skill to take as a human. It's uncomfortable, like I say, even I'm getting like just sweats thinking about it because it is really uncomfortable. But it's like if it is a case of like, yeah, drawing that, having that conversation of saying, I feel uncomfortable when we talk about these things with those relationships, that is, there's no escaping that's an uncomfortable conversation. But if that does then lead to less friction or resentment towards that person, and that creates like potentially even a deeper connection because you can then have those difficult like conversations and you can feel safe going, I'm going to eat a donut in front of my mum now. It's like I think that is worth the discomfort. Like the pain of that conversation is worth the thing that you kind of get out of it. Yeah.
It's an uncomfortable conversation anyway. It was already uncomfortable, and it's going to continue to be uncomfortable every time you're in that environment. So having that proactively uncomfortable discussion, as you said, may alleviate it down the road. I like that. Not easy. And I like the way you answer that one. Okay, next one. You had a recent post. I did a lot of silly shit when I first got into training, what was all this silly shit that you used to do that's was not helping, was getting in your way? What kind of stuff did you do?
Gosh, where do we want to start? So I think, well, I went through them all. I think that's actually one of, not when I say all, I went through a lot very, very quickly. And I think that's probably the first mistake that I made is like, I had this thing, I think it was an ego, I'll just call it, a big alter ego of like everything that I read, I fully believed was the golden ticket, the magic pill. And I was like, this is gonna be it now. And I'll do it for 2 weeks and then I'll see the next thing. Nah, that one, they've used the sciencey word now. I'm gonna go do that. And then I was gonna do that. And I think the things that came under the silly spell of when I was doing a new program every 2 weeks, there were things like yeah, definitely cut carbs for a while. I definitely got to a position where I was like, oh, actually, no, I like carbs. How can I introduce carbs? And then read, oh, it's okay. You can just have clean carbs. Okay, what are clean carbs? I don't know, but that sounds smart. So, and then did clean carbs. And then after that, it was like, okay, I'm gaining weight a bit again. Or what could it be? Ah, carb cycling. Do carbs on some days and not carbs on other days. And it went to that. And it was just like, but I didn't stick to anything long enough or understand anything below the surface level to know why something might be working or if it was even working. And it just put me in that spiral of just like basically the best way I can phrase it is throwing shit at a wall and hoping it would stick and being too egotistical to ask for any help or to understand anything at a deeper level. So in terms of the silly shit that I did, yeah, say nutritionally, I went through lots of restrictive means of navigating nutrition that didn't really have much scientific grounding. And then training, it was again was just reading a forum going, that sounds good, give it a go for a week or two, and then it never really kind of led anywhere. And yeah, just an accumulation of that I think was the start of the silly buggers I was playing with myself.
One of the ones you mentioned was doing things to keep your heart rate up between sets. What's the logic and what's wrong with that?
So that one was a classic from bodybuilding.com when that was, yeah, the I don't know if we can name and shame, but I
Oh,
won't name
sure,
who.
yeah.
Oh yeah, cool. So it was back when that was the pinnacle of where you got your information from. It was before social media kind of took a hold of things. And it was called Shortcut to Shred. It was 6 weeks long, and the theory behind it was that to build muscle, you had to lift heavy weights. So you would lift heavy weights. To burn body fat, you had to do cardio. But to save time, you would put the two together. So you'd do heavy weights, and then instead of resting in your rest time, you'll then do the cardio. So you would build muscle and then burn body fat at the same time. Magic, science. That was that was legit that was the hypothesis behind this program. And yeah, obviously that's a little bit crap because when you're looking to build muscle, you want to kind of rest quite a bit so your muscles can recover to go and train hard and get to that point where it tells you to bugger off, not because your lungs have failed or you think you're going to throw up, but because the muscle actually is being tested and rested and tested. So it completely interfered with the fact that you're trying to build muscle. So it actually made the muscle building worse. And well, without being in a calorie deficit, what's the point of really doing cardio for fat loss being the goal? Obviously, there's other goals for doing cardio, but for fat loss, it didn't really explain any of the mechanisms that actually drove fat loss. So it didn't really help that either. And especially when you then do a workout that's that brutal, all I wanted to do after a workout like that was order like five Big Macs from McDonald's on the way home. And so that's often what I would do because I had no understanding of nutrition. So not only would I be shit at building muscle, I would also be shit at losing body fat, and I would wonder where everything was going wrong and why I was just in pain all the time. It was a big lesson in no pain, no gain doesn't really mean mean that. I was like sometimes there is only pain and no gain, and that program was the pinnacle of that, I think.
Suboptimal for muscle building, definitely not, ideal for developing cardiovascular stamina for a specific purpose. It's suboptimal across the board. And you mentioned something here, and I thought you were going to go a different direction, but I think you alluded to it. It's not very fun. And if you're doing something that's not fun, I mean, listen, there are people that love getting being lying in a pool of sweat at the end of the workout. They like that. They like having a coach yell at them, and they like going to classes. They like doing shit like CrossFit. Knock yourself out. If you like that, sign up for that, like intentionally and willfully, and pay money for it. All the power to you. That is not me. I like lifting heavy shit, and I like sitting down for 2 minutes and going, all right, cool. I'm ready to lift again. That's me. And that will
Yeah.
keep me in the habit. I've been doing that for years. It's worked.
Yeah, I can tell you 2 weeks in when I was up this close to vomiting in the gym, that's when I was like, yeah, this ain't fun. If this is what it takes, then I'm all right. Just not.
Any other glorious silly shit that really stood out to you?
Certainly the typical.
Maybe stuff that you still see people doing.
I did go through a phase of the German volume training, which I see come back now and then, of it's like
Hmm.
10 sets of 10 reps. On Yeah, and you're in there for like hours and it hurts. I think I tried it twice and I got injured both times. I think my back was like, yo, no.
Well,
Which is
that's
10 sets of 10 squats. I don't know how that happened. I think it was 60 seconds rest as well. So again, suboptimal rest, a bit aimless volume. And like, yeah.
we now have a really good understanding that one of the primary mechanisms behind injury risk is poor load management. You make very large increases in load volume and intensity in short periods of time. That's certainly well above your historical averages. So you go from whatever, especially beginner, right into German volume training. Guess what? That's a dramatic increase in injury risk, right? And I don't like creating fear around this stuff, but it is one of the potential injury mechanisms. And we now understand it's not necessarily about form. If anything, like there's not very good evidence to suggest that form and injury risk have a relationship. I'm not willing to say there's none, but I've also noticed that I think a lot of the form issues are just poor load management anyway, and it's showing up in form.
Yeah, I think as well when it's that breakdown of form is like you're almost load managing if it's in those last reps, you're load managing a body position you haven't trained. Like consistent, then like you see people with like rounded spines deadlift, they've always done it. And so their back's just bulletproof, it's fine. Whereas it's when it's like you whack on a weight you can't control and then your body gets thrown into a different position and then you're loading through it. It's like you're loading that position in a like very, very quickly. That's often been what I've seen, like anecdotally for sure, with my own injuries and other people as well. It's like it's not necessarily just flat out bad technique. It's usually that load management on top of that. Pushing that is where problems can arise.
This is brilliant, and I agree with you explicitly. I absolutely think you're right on that one. All right, next up. You recently, ooh, okay, deeper stuff. You had a post. You were recently called a quote plumper and noted how you got told that when you were leaner, you looked better before. It's like you can't win. So what's going on there?
You can't win. This probably comes back quite nicely full circle to the first question that you asked of I think people have their own beliefs of what they think an ideal body is. And I think some people are more invested in getting those projections across. Some people couldn't give a shit, like personally, like whatever, just do what you want to do as long as you're happy. But other people, they might not have that same kind of view and things. And I think, yeah, there is that sense of, as you said, that like their own insecurities can sometimes come across in terms of what they think a person should look like. And there is definitely people that go, yeah, as soon as I've lost weight, because I've been through different, like not all ends of the spectrum, but I have gone to places where I have been very lean and purposely kind of to chat like a bit to challenge myself when I first got into like lifting. I was like, I think everyone like when they fall in love with lifting, I think everyone goes through a little phase of like, I want to go and see how lean I can get. Maybe not everyone, but a good chunk of people kind of do that. And I've done it a couple of times and have got quite lean. And some people, what I find funny is like some people at that point they go, "You look sick," and then other people go, "Like you look awful." Like you, well, no, not sick as in that's a Britishism of like you look
Yeah.
really good.
Ah,
Sick, bruv. So I saw your face go,
because that's the other thing too, is
yeah,
like someone loses a bunch of weight. You're like, hey, do you have cancer? Like,
yeah.
what? No.
Granted, I never got to that stage. I never got to the stage of dangerously lean. I kind of always stopped just before I noticed a drastic change in like things like menstrual cycle or physical health. Like I kind of always like, oh, I think if I go for a bit longer, I might be dabbling in that. So I always kind of stopped at that point because I was never going to step on bodybuilding stage or anything like that. I had no reason to do it. So, not that anyone has a reason to do that anyway. But anyway, yeah, I think it was yeah, at that point people would like compliment my body as well as pick at it. And that's happened again when I've had more body fat on my frame. Like I sit at a much higher body fat at that point because that's just where I like to be. It's the byproducts of the habits that I have, and I'm just quite chill there. And again, like my mum actually goes, "Oh, I prefer you with a lot more body fat," because yeah, just comments. But like she's like, and then I'll get other people go on social media. How can you be a fitness coach? You have body fat, and it's like no matter where you are, you get the compliments and you get the shit. And I think it's one of those of then for me it really reinforces how other people's opinions just literally don't really mean much on your own body and it's how you feel in yourself because if you try to please people all the time like you're just going to be chasing your tail. If you're looking to change your body so X person likes what you look, or you are trying to find someone that likes the way you look, it's like you're just never going to be satisfied, because there's always going to be someone that goes, oh, actually, but I prefer that, or I prefer that. And so I think that's been quite an important learning for myself, of like, do it for you, because it is your journey, and that's the most important thing, is like how you feel about it. Like no one else is affected by it, really. It is really you. Yeah.
Your media, you do something that I also kind of do in a different way. Uh, you don't call attention to your physique. And so I'll explain it from my thoughts. Every once in a while, I will post a video of me lifting. Now, I'm 6'2", 250 pounds. I'm a big human being, right? A lot of muscle on my frame.
I
But
was gonna
for
say,
very
Andrew,
long,
you're jacked.
what's that?
You're jacked.
And I chose a profile photo that would like pretty much disguised it. It made me look pretty, lean. I would say nowhere near the physique I actually possess. And it wasn't like it was a period of time where I was smaller. It literally just it's innocuous looking photo. And it resulted, I think, at least in part, in attracting, plus the messaging, which was more text-based media, not like me lifting in videos. And it attracted a really awesome audience. I think my following's two-thirds women, a lot of, everyday coaches. Yeah, every once in a while you get some IFBB pro bodybuilder will show up in there and they're like, yeah, I love the messaging. Great, awesome. Meanwhile, like I've written for T Nation, Generation Iron, a bunch of the other like Muscle and Fitness. I still write for Muscle and Fitness, and those brands, like you think like bodybuilding bro type stuff, but that's not heavily my audience. And it ended up being a fairly deliberate and conscientious choice because I didn't necessarily want a whole bunch of like, and guess what? Gym bros are great. I love gym bros, but like all of my audience being gym bros, I wasn't really interested in like courting that audience. And then the audience just sort of showed up for the kind of messaging I was interested in. And I think you're kind of similar where you're authentically yourself, very fearless. Obviously, you're very open about the fact that you will swear a ton in your messaging. And everyone's, I'm sure you're like, oh, this would be great if you didn't swear. And you're like, fuck off. It's not for you. But you're courting the right kind of audience. And another thing I like about you is you don't make much of, I almost never see you talk about the negative comments that you might get because it always shows up on social media, but you don't play victim to it. You don't turn around and go, oh, woe is me. And, get your followers go, oh, no, 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 you're so wonderful. Fuck those people. And I see that kind of stuff and I see accounts that do a lot of it. And I'm like, I see that. That's performative narcissism. I don't like that. I know what's going on there, right? You're looking for sympathy. You don't play those games at all. It's just you show up as yourself. And I think the awesomeness is in being relatable to a lot of the people who everything you've talked about in your journey have probably been there or are still on that and go, I like her because she gets it. She's not some, physique pro model who is unattainable. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Is
no,
it
for
deliberate?
sure.
Is it deliberate?
I think it isn't. What was deliberate is to show up authentically as me. And I'm someone who authentically hasn't brushed my hair in about 3 years or wore makeup. So I think it's one of those of like, yeah, that is how I show up, but that is just me showing up as myself, really. And it has just it, like you're quite right, it has attracted the people that I want to work with. And I think like cause, and as well, like I now think about things a bit more. Like it was kind of like it's just how I've always shown up on social media, because it's just I want to be authentically myself. But now I've like obviously grown an audience, and like just learning a little bit more about it as you do as you go. I certainly have noticed like my audience, we do resonate it more, and like people reach out to me with really personal things, and they just trust me from just the content that I put out, which I absolutely am like still it blows my mind. And I'm so grateful that people do have that relationship with me online. It is a really authentic relationship, I feel, that I have with a lot of my audience. And I think it's one of those of when I reflect back and it's like, yeah, if I was posting other sorts of content, like just like, oh, work out with me and here's my new Gymshark set. Like I've never bought a Gymshark set. Like I wear Gymshark because I found it in a charity shop. Like it's like I stole this hoodie from my friend. It's like it's these sorts of things. It's like I think it's one of those of when it's is that case of that you're showing up that way. Like I say, it does just build that authentic relationship as well. And I think like yeah, so with the people that I love to help and always wanted to help are people that are anxious about getting into the gym. The people that oh, look, that most people that comment on my videos always start off with, I'm never going to go into the gym, but I watch all your videos. And then about 3 months later, I see them and they go, I've just downloaded your program and I've got into the gym. Like the amount of times I get people like that would never have otherwise trained unless they found my page, like that that is everything to me. When I see that happen, I'm like, wow, that's insane. That impact is absolutely insane, and I absolutely love it. Like my mum's just downloaded my app, and one of my closest friends has just her mum's just downloaded the app, and they've used the Smith machine for the first time, and they've like messaged me going, I've used the Smith machine for the first time. I'm like, I feel from just showing up and say not showing my physique and just being like, look, I'm just like, because I am just a normal person. I guess I'm still living with my parents at the moment, so it's like, yeah, we just go, we lift, and it's fun, and doesn't have to be that deep. You don't have to be an Olympic bodybuilder in order to lift weights and improve your bone health. Like it's fine. It's like so yeah, I think it was definitely one that was accidental to begin with, but it's more I've kind of grown, the more I think it's really important for like my brand and who I am and how I talk online to yeah, continue being that way for sure.
So we won't see videos of you climbing into a Maserati anytime soon. For my Canadian friends, that was a political Canadian inside joke. We'll move on from that, but let's go here. So one of my biggest frustrations with, I think, the last couple of years of video-based social media, I think there's a lot of clout chasing. I think that's always kind of a thing, but there's a lot of combativeness and a lot of pedantic fighting over different interpretations of, how to build muscle, etc. And it's people calling people out. You don't play any of those games. And what you just said is what I think matters. I think there's a very small subsection of people who are bought in fitness diehards. And I love serving them. I want to, always speak to those people. But they get it. They generally follow the evidence. They follow the smart people out there. And they might be interested in maybe the difference of interpretations of like, you hear stuff like length and partials. I'm like, okay, if there's something that I think is overhyped, maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe the research will coalesce and be like, it's the greatest thing ever. I don't think so. I think it's just hype. But people like grabbing onto hype stuff. But that shit not only doesn't help your mom, it confuses her. And I think the real win is when we get the people who feel never thought about going to the gym. They never thought that they're the kind of person who would do it. The person who is maybe they're struggling with their weight, they're struggling with their mental health, they're struggling with their metabolic health, something they don't feel great. They're confused and they're intimidated with it. They've been lured in before by diet marketing and gotten into fad diets, or maybe they've got a coworker who's a keto evangelist who's trying to convince himself that keto is the greatest thing by evangelizing to everybody else around them and converting them to the religion. But if you're getting someone to tiptoe into the gym, feel safe, feel confident, and embrace the evidence-based basics, I think that is how we change the world, because I think that's what matters. I don't think most of the rest of the TikTok biomechanic shit don't think matters at all.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. When it's like arguing, oh, what latch raise is the best one, this one or this very slightly different one, it's like Tina doesn't even know what a lateral raise is, and you're it's like, I think it's fair. I say it's fair if you are talking to those people that want to kind of do that, but like for me, that would never help my audience, so I don't post it. Even though I could go geeky and like make people go, oh, look, she knows, so she's read a paper around exercise science, interesting. I was like, I just feel the way that I think is helping people feel understood rather than forcing understanding of something really complex on stuff is what I say what can change the world through fitness content. Like when people go, oh shit, I feel understood because yeah, I do feel like I'll call people anxious little pickles. Like, are you an anxious little pickle that is avoiding that machine because you're thinking everyone's going to look at you? And like when you clang something, make a noise, people gonna. It's like people go, oh, I feel understood. I've been in that place because everyone's been in that place when they first go into the gym. And then it's like I think after that, you then break down that barrier and be like this is how we can kind of deal with it, rather than go like 5 steps further ahead and then try to get them to understand something that isn't even necessarily relevant. Like, yeah, I couldn't agree more with, yeah, with what you said for sure.
You got the person who's listening right now who somehow found this, shared by a friend. They're trying to get into our world. What would you say to them?
Can I do a shameless plug?
Yes, please.
I would say first is go follow me and watch all my videos because I literally go for every movement. I go for every movement. And then after that, you can go download a free program because I literally just made a free program that takes you through your first 10 weeks of training, whether that's at home or in the gym, and use that as a comfort blanket. Me and my colleague, we joke that we are the comfort blanket of the fitness industry of like, if you just don't know where to start, we give you that place to just start. We try to take the fear away from it. We try to make those first steps manageable. We don't expect you to be perfect. So don't expect yourself to be perfect and like know how to do everything straight away. Like just get the foot in the door and then focus on each step after that. Like that's all you need to do right now. And I'm saying if you want to make that easier, then the shameless plug is to go find my stuff because everything is literally just built to fix that solution, I think.
You've done a wonderful job with your systems programs. I've actually encouraged other coaches who are friends of mine, my friend Alexa, for example, who I know you guys have
Hmm.
connected, and showed her what you do with your media, so that way she could learn from it. And I know she went and downloaded that. I think you've done an incredible job of reaching more people. So one of the reasons why I bring you on here is because I want people to follow you. I usually do that at the end, but it's like, go follow Rachel, please, because I've been following you since you had what, a few thousand followers.
About 3,000, I think, is when we first started talking. Three,
Exactly right.
like 700,000 followers ago, which it feels wild.
You've done well. All right, so we've talked a lot about the stuff that we see online. What about the idiots yelling at food, walking through grocery stores?
I'm really hoping that leaves in 2020. That's a 2024 thing, isn't it? And it's like, I really hope like as soon as the new year hits, like Tesco and, or I don't know if you have Tesco, Walmart, whatever a supermarket is, just
Yeah,
goes, no, no recording here. Like, can we just put a blanket ban on recording in supermarkets? Like, even the ones that post useful content, I'm like, you can do that outside the supermarket. Like, just get rid of it. Just get rid of it. But yeah, I think anything that puts fear into you as a formality of communicating nutrition advice, red flag. I would say when it's based from a place of fear and you've got something wrong and we're going to fix it, 9 times out of 10, probably 10 times out of 10, the next thing that comes out of the mouth is bullshit. It's a good, also that's a good radar to kind of go for.
what about the ones who are shirtless in grocery stores?
Don't even need to hear it. You can have sound off and be like, yeah, away you go. Done with you.
I was in the supermarket one day and I actually took a quick clip because I was like, this is ridiculous. And it's like, can you imagine? Like, I'm walking through the grocery store aisle. Like, okay, I even see people, authorities in the industry, and they're like walking along on the side of the road and they're talking to their phone. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then I pause and I'm walking around. I'm like, I can't fucking imagine pulling up my phone and talking to the phone like I'm this influencer type with other people just walking past me, let alone in a grocery store. I can't fathom the like, I would just feel really ashamed of doing this. So of course it tells me like these people have no shame.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if I aspire to have that level of confidence or if it's just plain delusion. Like I just don't know. But I saw one recently and and they stop people when they go through the trolleys. Have you seen those? Where they actually stop people that are shopping and go through the trolley and be like, that's unhealthy, that's healthy, why are
Please
you
tell
doing
me
that?
that's staged because like, it makes
I
me
hope
think
it
of
is.
I can't count the number of times I've run into a client or someone I know at Costco. And immediately you could kind of tell that they're a little bit nervous that I'm going to like judge what's in the cart, right? Like you can always tell they sort of like tense up like that a little bit. And I'm like, no, 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 it's all good. And then, I mean, when I'm shopping at Costco, I usually have like, people freak out about the word clean food, whatever fuck. It's like, it's generally pretty healthy, nourishing stuff. But like, I'll go to DQ once a week and post it on my social media. Like, I just trade legs. I'm having a medium blizzard. That's epic. That's non-negotiable. Forget about it. Or like, I might have a glass of scotch. Look, trust me, there's stuff that's quote not clean that goes into my week, but it's all in balance. But I cannot fathom actually going up to a stranger and filming them. It's got to be staged because I can't imagine people would grant permission
I
to
hope
post
so for
that.
society. Otherwise, yeah, there might be no going back.
I put, yeah, if someone did that. Yeah, I would probably catch an assault charge if someone tried to pull that crap with me. I like being able to travel into the US, so I'm trying to avoid like we don't. It's an American term. Felonies is American. We can in Canada we don't have felonies. We have a God, I can't remember what it's called. So either way, I've never been convicted of one, so it's all good. But yeah, it would be the sort of thing that's like, all right, you would no longer be allowed to travel into the United States if you like had an assault charge. So I try to go out of my way to avoid that. Okay, what else I got for you? I like this one. Your formula. It's been copied by I call bad faith actors. Talk a lot of waffle. There's a certain annoying blute Muppet character that definitely does this sort of thing. Oh, I see.
Who you could be talking about?
I love because I don't usually do the videos of these. Who knows? Maybe I'll put them up on Spotify. My guy who does the back end, Chris Little, who's amazing, guys. Like everybody go follow Chris. He like knows podcasts inside and out. He's great. Listens to all of them. Love you, Chris. he's trying to get me to post the videos to Spotify, but Nick, your face, every time I've asked you something, your face just lights up or makes some sort of like grand expression. So let's see. Your thoughts on people being able to sort the good stuff from the bad stuff? Because what I've noticed is there are people who are literally making shit up. They're making shit up and they mix it in with some decent stuff, but then they talk nonsense. How do you tell?
Yeah, I think for the lays person, just someone that's just trying to learn the basics, it is really hard when they dress it up as something that, because a lot of like so many, and I think the myths on the nutrition and fitness world, like so often they do have an element of truth to it, which and then they just take something and put it wildly out of context. But I think like general things to put your guard up against is when it's spoken in black and whites of like so a really big thing that I say the piggyback kind of basically personal trainers have caught on to controversy like gets views as does like that kind of yeah and black and white statements tend to cause a bit of controversy so people go this is the worst exercise or for X or this is the best exercise for X or I can't believe people are still doing this. It's like those things you want to watch it afterwards and it's not to say that all of those because sometimes people do that just to get the attention and still give good information but I think it's now got to a position where people have caught onto that so there's a lot of bad videos that follow. There's me saying a black and white statement of any videos that are like that are bad, but like, but I think there is when I've looked at those videos and I know the person that you're talking about, it starts off with that fear thing of like, I can't believe people are doing this, or
I don't know
this,
why this is still a thing. I'll call it straight out. I mean, like if any of you guys,
yeah,
oh,
it's
I'm comfortable. Like if anybody's like, oh, that dude, like that's a fake coach. I'm sorry. Like now I'm being mean. That makes stuff up. But again, clickbait stuff.
but yeah, that formula works because it's like it has that catchy hook and then it goes and it's the reason that you have no glutes. And it's like, well, no, you can still squat probably quite badly and still build a bit of glutes. Like it's like obviously you might want to get it better over time. Or like there's things, but it's that black and white thing of like that again, that is similar with the nutrition when it starts from that point of fear of you're doing it wrong, you need to do it my way or no way. I think that happens in the training world as well. Of like, if you do this exercise wrong, and people are too scared to go into the gym anyway, and then you're too terrified doing it wrong, and then you see that content going, "This is the worst way you can do it." It's like, actually give it a go and start to have a feel of it yourself. And then as you start to understand it a little bit more, then you can maybe start to think about some of those things. And I think sometimes trial and error in some stuff you can learn a lot from that as well. Don't be afraid to trial stuff. And like, I definitely like 5 years ago would have been duped by that, but it's only through greater knowledge and greater experience that I'm probably in that position where I'm like, yeah, that's bullshit of that greater learning. But I think like, yeah, that early stage, it's like, I think just be careful when it's that kind of black and white way of doing it. And yeah, and don't be afraid to give it a feel of yourself. And that sounds a bit inappropriate, but like yeah, you can kind of get in and try and error it yourself. I think you can learn a lot from that.
Here's something that I've been kind of struggling with recently because there are people like yourself. I have Jack Hallows on recently. Jack is
Mm.
wonderful, so he'll be part of this initial launch. If people really like you and your style, go listen to Jack's episode. You guys will love Jack. Jack has got a very soft, charismatic presence, great with evidence-based stuff. And there are a bunch of accounts that I think do evidence-based video really well, get saucy with it, know how to edit and cut. There's a skill there, right? But I've also noticed that there are people who have exploited the same things. And I think there's a quote about, I don't want to pick on Jillian Michaels too much, but Jillian, but she's an entertainer. She's an actor playing a fitness professional. And I think what we have now is we have content creators, actors, entertainers playing fitness professionals more and more because they figured, well, I can become an authority in the space because I actually have the skills to gain status and following very rapidly. And I've noticed a fair bit of this now. So it is going to be challenging for people to kind of figure it out. And one of my red flags, and I find that, and I've spoken about this before, I find sometimes you get I don't like ideological extremism in either way. And I don't like talking about politics or social stuff, but we get ideological extremists, and they usually are commentators on the complex social political stuff of our world. But they then somehow land in the fitness industry. And what they are is they are activists masquerading as fitness professionals. And sometimes I've noticed a trend with them is they'll demonize the industry blanket, but they somehow are uniquely virtuous and they are uniquely good. And to me, that's just straight up narcissism. So I also careful with that. When someone spends most of their time talking about why the industry is bad, and trust me, there are problem corners in the industry. A lot of the, but you hear people whipping around the word diet culture. That's usually a red flag to me. And yet there is a problem with traditional diet culture, right? But if everything is anti-diet diet culture, to me, that is a big, big, big ass red flag there. So it's tricky to navigate because I also don't like dealing in absolute statements either, like you said. But I think now keep your radar up because there is this cohort of entertainers who are dancing around with fitness-based content. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they actually are experienced, knowledgeable, evidence-based coaches.
Yeah, and as someone that has benefited from this, I will say now has probably been the time that social platforms has promoted virality more than ever I've realized. I think it is a new thing. Like, to go viral, there's now a bit of a formula to it. I think that will, I can already see it's changing because people are bored of seeing some of the same stuff, and it does change it. But there's just so many people online. Like, I am an average person. I've got an audience across platforms of close to 1 million people. Before social media, that would never have fucking happened, and I can tell you that 100% confident. And I think, like, there are those people that, as say, take advantage. They go, "Oh, I can get viral by doing something like this," and yeah, not to call, I could call them out, but no, I'll kind of just say, I know this is going to infuriate you, Andrew, so I'm sorry in advance. But there was
Really?
that, so I was part of like a social media, like I've tried like lots of courses to like understand how to present myself online and things. To be honest, I only ever like drip fed and got a little bit from it and like just kind of learned as go. And there was someone that was in that community and there everyone was sharing their posts, and I was just always a lurker, just like having a look. And she wasn't getting anywhere, this person. She wasn't getting anywhere at all. And then she saw in one of the courses like our controversy sells. So she then turned herself into the cortisol coach.
Oh,
Well, I can't remember her actual name, but she went into cortisol as
mm,
her spiel and went through the fear of everything basically that you feel negative in your life is because you've got high cortisol. So, oh, have you gained weight on the scale this morning? It's because of cortisol. Oh, have you had disrupted cortisol? Then she started getting views from that. She's like, oh, great, I'm getting views now. So she did more of that and more of that. And it's like, and it's literally, I've seen that person go in, oh, I want to get rich, basically. I can do that by getting viral. I know a little bit about fitness, not a bit like, obviously hadn't had any coaching experience from the way that they kind of talk and those sorts of things. And I think they've got about 1 million followers now.
and I mean,
And
that's grifting on cortisol. And
yeah,
I
it is
am
100%.
always really bullish on, I think, if coaches have great messages, if they're evidence-based, if they're resonant with people, you are a wonderful example of this. Jack Hallows is as well. I think you guys, in a very big way, follow in the footsteps of like a James Smith. And James has just done it for a really long time. And now, as you said, there's more potential for virality, and you guys rode that wave, right? And you can't, I don't believe in gatekeeping against bad faith actors. I believe in being knowledgeable to the point where you can kind of tell good from bad, right? I don't like the idea of censorship on online. But yeah, like if you've got someone who everything is cortisol, guess what? I will say explicitly that a person is grifting on a concept and creating fear, as you pointed out a whole bunch. I really do love the idea of, like I said, coaches who are smart about this stuff to embrace video-based media, social media in general, because the industry's changed. I still have been heavily influenced by the old industry where you have to come through the gatekeepers, and those gatekeepers are you write for publications like bodybuilding.com or T Nation and platform by them, right? Like Lane Norton came up through bodybuilding.com, right? Lane has got a huge platform. A lot of the evidence-based authority strength conditioning coaches that I am now friends with, I follow for years, they came up through T Nation. T Nation was the first one I wrote for, got over 5 years ago. That was the launching point for all the other opportunities I got. Or you go through a muscle fitness or a men's health magazine, or you end up as an IFBB pro, because it was there weren't as many categories and it was much harder to get a pro card, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Or you came out of this like big affiliate network of old school coaches, or maybe you got really big with YouTube early on, sort of a Jeff Nippard type where he came through, or you actually build a successful company and then that just gives you a lot of credibility, like Renaissance Periodization, Mike Israel, et cetera, right? Like those are some good examples, or Molly Galbraith, Girls Gone Strong. But now you can bypass all that and you can ride the wave. And if you're great at video, you can search. But I also think for the coaches listening, because I really want to make this the general population side of stuff. But if you go back and you actually develop some of the traditional things of authority, writing your own articles, I think doing really great with YouTube based video, podcasting, etc. I think it can lend you a little bit extra credibility and layer it in. And I think building a successful business, which you've certainly done.
Yeah, I think that's certainly something that, because obviously I've been in those like networks where people have just chased the virality. As talking to coaches of like people have gone viral and still not had a successful business because they haven't done the coaching part first, or they haven't done the coaching part with it. And a lot of the way that because I've recently just launched another shameless plug, but I've just recently just
Please.
launched it. So I just launched a low paid app, and the whole point of it is I just wanted to make training programs affordable. It's super cheap. I think I launched it at £5 a month, which is about $6 a month. So super cheap just to get a new program every 8 weeks. And it's just like I was in the place where I was fortunate enough to be able to do it. But the way that people were so excited for that is because for a whole year I was giving them free programs, and before that I was doing free challenges. And it's like, and I was getting coaching experience, learning what I wanted, what those people might have needed. And that was years of building relationships, not just I went viral and released an app. I went viral. I built an email list. I talked to those people, and I still do. And I actually genuinely care that they get a really incredible experience. And it's like, if you don't have that layer to it, it doesn't matter if you're going viral, because all you are is just viral for a bit, and then people get bored of you because you can't really do like the next step to actually help people. And yeah, I think that I'd say that was a bit more of a coach tangent, but for
It's all
sure it's
good.
important.
There's always
Mm.
going to be a little bit of that too. So where do people find you to go follow your
Um,
stuff?
on Instagram, Henley Fitness.
That simple. Go follow Rachel, please. She's
Yeah,
wonderful.
sorry, it's
You
just
will
there.
love you will love the saucy humor. A lot of sexual innuendo in there too, right? Okay, so
You.
everybody listening, thank you again. I can't appreciate you guys enough. The mission, the goal is to get this in the hands of more of the end user, the general population, the person who needs the help, the person we talked about who may be struggling to even step foot in the gym for the first time. Okay, I'm not interested in like fighting over length and partials. Okay, so I'm going to bring you guys more and more of these great episodes. I am about to go and record with Dr. Alyssa Olenek, who should also be part of the first wave. And so Alyssa's hard to get on podcast. She's amazing. You guys will love her too. And so I hope this initial splash of episodes has been great. Check them all out, please. Subscribe if you're not already, but help me get this in the hands of more people. I'll let I'll let you think of a way. Share it with someone that you think will love this, and you help me on this mission. And I appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in this week. I will talk to you next week.